The Villa de Sagni sat atop a sun-drenched hill like a crown of ancient stone and terracotta. Below it, the Orsha Valley rolled out in waves of emerald and gold, dotted with cypress trees that stood like silent sentinels guarding the peace. For Clara, this wasn't just a wedding venue, it was a fortress of order. After 3 years of spreadsheets, color swatch battles, and a savings account bled dry by the exorbitant cost of artisanal hand-pressed invitations, she finally felt she was in control. "The lemons, Beatrice," Clara said, her voice steady but her eyes scanning the long, rustic wooden tables with the intensity of a diamond appraiser. "They need to be the Amalfi variety. Not these, supermarket orbs. They lack the zest. They lack the poetry." Beatrice, the wedding planner whose patience was surely being tested by the gods, nodded and scribbled on her iPad. "Of course, Clara. The poetry of the lemons. I shall have the shipment swapped by dawn." Clara sighed, a long, shaky exhale. Beside her, Liam, her fiancé, squeezed her shoulder. Liam was a man of quiet grace, a landscape architect who understood that beauty took time. "It's perfect, Claire. Even if we used plastic limes, this place would be magic. Look at that light." The Tuscan sun was beginning its slow descent, bathing the limestone walls in a honey-colored glow. It was the kind of light that made everything look expensive and timeless. Clara leaned her head on Liam's shoulder, finally allowing herself to believe that nothing could go wrong. Then, the silence of the valley was shattered by the high-pitched scream of a vintage Alfa Romeo engine. A cherry-red spider skidded onto the gravel driveway, kicking up a plume of white dust that settled directly onto the pristine white linen runners of the nearest table. Clara coughed, waving the dust away, her heart hammering a rhythm of pure, instinctual panic. The door swung open, and out stepped a leg. A very long, very tanned leg ending in a 6-inch gold stiletto that was entirely impractical for gravel. "Darlings. The Queen has arrived. And she brought a snack. Evelyn." Clara's mother. At 55, Evelyn looked like a woman who had successfully sued the concept of aging and won a massive settlement. She was draped in a silk kaftan that cost more than Clara's first car, her blonde hair a masterpiece of intentional just woke up in St. Tropez waves. But it wasn't Evelyn who stopped Clara's heart. It was the person unfolding himself from the passenger seat. He looked about 24. Maybe 25 if he'd had a particularly rough week. He wore a linen shirt unbuttoned to the navel, revealing a chest that looked like it had been sculpted out of marble and then rubbed with expensive oil. He had a man bun, a jawline that could cut glass, and he was currently holding a gimbal-mounted iPhone, filming the villa. "Look at this energy, guys," the boy whispered into the phone, ignoring everyone. "The vibrations here are literally insane. Use the code VIBE20 for a discount on the Palo Santo sticks I'm using to clear this headspace." Clara stood frozen. "Mother. You're 2 days early." Evelyn swept across the gravel, smelling of Chanel No. 5 and expensive gin. She bypassed Clara entirely to pull Liam into a suffocating, perfume-drenched hug. "Liam, my sweet, sweet boy. You look stable. How wonderful for you." She finally turned to Clara, giving her a perfunctory air kiss. "And Clara. You look tired, darling. Is it the lemons? I heard you shouting about lemons from the gate. It's a bit common, isn't it? Very Target home decor circa 2014. Mother, who is this?" Clara gestured toward the boy, who was now performing a slow-motion yoga stretch near the fountain. "Oh. Where are my manners?" Evelyn beamed, her eyes flashing with a predatory sort of glee. "This is Jax. My twin flame. My soul sink. We met 3 weeks ago in Ibiza during a full moon ceremony. He's a high-level wellness architect and a Tier 1 influencer. I have 400,000 followers on the gram," Jax added, finally lowering his phone. He looked at Clara with an expression of profound pity. Your aura is very gray, Clara. It's blocking the villa's natural ley lines. We need to work on that. Clara felt a vein in her temple begin to throb. Jax. Right. Well, Jax, the guest house is at the bottom of the hill. I'm sure you'll be very comfortable there while the family prepares for the rehearsal. Evelyn let out a laugh that sounded like breaking crystal. The guest house? Don't be absurd. Jax needs to be in the main suite with me. And more importantly, we need to discuss the seating. I've already told Beatrice. You spoke to my planner. Clara's voice rose an octave. Just a tiny chat. Evelyn waved a hand dismissively. The head table. It's far too small. It looks like a jury box. We need to expand it so Jax can sit next to me. As the mother of the bride, I should be flanked by my partner. It's only natural. He's not a partner, Mom. He's a child. He's younger than my brother. Age is a linear construct created by the patriarchy to suppress joy, Jax interjected smoothly, snapping a photo of a lemon. I'm actually an old soul. In a past life, I was a priest in Atlantis. Liam tried to intervene, his voice the low rumble of a man trying to avert a nuclear meltdown. Evelyn, maybe we can talk about this over dinner? Clara has worked really hard on the logistics. Logistics are for people without vision, Liam, Evelyn said, her tone suddenly sharpening. She stepped closer to Clara, her eyes narrowing. This is my only daughter's wedding. I want it to be iconic. I want people to talk about it for decades. And right now, it's a bit safe. It's a bit Pinterest board. Jax and I are going to bring the fire. Clara watched them walk toward the villa, Jax's arm draped around Evelyn's waist, his thumb hooked into the silk of her caftan. She felt a cold shiver of dread that had nothing to do with the evening breeze. Later that night, unable to sleep, Clara crept down to the veranda to find her binder of wedding notes. She found Beatrice instead, standing by the floral mock UPS in the dark. Beatrice? What are you doing out here? The planner looked up, her expression caught between professional neutrality and genuine horror. Your mother, Clara, she came back to see me an hour ago. And she asked for the quote on the lilies. The white ones. The ones we reserved for your bouquet. Beatrice hesitated, chewing her lip. She told me to double the order. But not for the bouquet. For a backdrop. For the main event, she called it. She also asked if the officiant spoke English well enough to perform a surprise vow renewal during the ceremony. Clara felt the world tilt. A vow renewal? She's not even married to him. She said, Beatrice whispered, that by Saturday, the details wouldn't matter. She said she was taking over the creative direction because she didn't want the family name associated with something so pedestrian. Clara looked out over the darkened Tuscan hills. The dream was still there, the villa still stood, but the air felt different now. It felt like a coup. Her mother hadn't just brought a +1, she had brought a replacement. Don't change a thing, Beatrice, Clara said, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and resolve. Not a single lemon. Not a single chair. But as she looked up at the lighted window of the master suite, she saw the silhouette of Jax and Evelyn dancing to a faint beat of techno music, and she knew. The war for her wedding had begun, and her mother was already playing to the cameras. The second day in Tuscany began not with the chirping of birds, but with the aggressive vibration of a high-end massage gun echoing through the stone corridors of the Villa di Sogni. Clara woke up at 6 a.m., her wedding binder clutched to her chest like a shield. Today was the rehearsal. The day when every moving part, the catering, the flowers, the seating, the sanity was supposed to click into place. But as she stepped into the hallway, she found the villa transformed. The scent of lavender and citrus she'd painstakingly selected for the foyer had been replaced by a thick, cloying cloud of sandalwood incense. It clears the stagnant energy of the ancestors, Jax's voice drifted from the terrace. He was shirtless again, his bronzed skin glistening with sweat as he performed a series of erratic, jerky movements he called primal flow. A tripod stood 3 feet away, its lens tracking his every move. If we don't purge the trauma from the floorboards, the union will be cursed, Clara. I'm doing this for you, babe. Pro bono. Clara didn't even look at him. She marched toward the bridal suite, where her hair stylist, Marco, was supposed to be preparing her for the morning's pre-rehearsal photo shoot. The suite was empty. Marco. She called out. No answer. She found him 20 minutes later in the east wing, her mother's wing. The door was cracked open, and the sound of frantic Italian whispering drifted out. Clara pushed the door open to find Marco, the man she had flown in from Milan at a premium, meticulously applying gold leaf to Evelyn's eyelids. Marco? What are you doing? We have the sunrise shoot in 10 minutes, Clara said, her voice trembling with a dangerous etch. Marco looked up, his eyes wide with the terror of a man caught between a client and a predator. Signorina, the signora, she told me the schedule had been revised. Evelyn, draped in a silk kimono that looked suspiciously like a bridal robe, didn't turn around. She watched Clara through the vanity mirror, her expression one of practiced, maternal concern. Oh, Clara, don't be so rigid. Marco was just helping me with a base layer. Besides, you're young. You have that natural look. I, on the other hand, have to work for it. And since Jax is filming his Global Love special today, I simply can't look like a common guest. A base layer takes 3 hours, mother. Clara stepped into the room, her shadow falling over the gold leaf. This is my wedding. Marco is my stylist. You are a guest. A very important guest, but a guest nonetheless. Evelyn sighed, a sound of heavy, dramatic martyrdom. She signaled Marco to stop and turned her chair around. Guest? Is that how you see me? After I paid for after I contributed so much to your upbringing? I am the matriarch, Clara. If the sun doesn't shine on the tree, the branches don't grow. I need to look radiant, so you look radiant by association. Get out, Marco, Clara whispered. Go to my room. Now. As Marco scurried away, Evelyn stood up, her silk robe trailing behind her like a royal train. You're so stressed, darling. It's aging you. Jax has some amazing CBD drops in the fridge. They're made from hemp grown in high vibration soil. You should try some. Clara didn't answer. She couldn't. If she spoke, she would scream, and she knew Evelyn fed on screams. By noon, the heat was a physical weight. Clara headed to the poolside bar to check on the refreshments for the rehearsal lunch. She had ordered a sophisticated array of botanical gin fizzes: cucumber, elderflower, and mint. What she found were 3 large glass dispensers filled with a thick, beige, chalky liquid that looked like wet cement. What is this? Clara asked the bartender, a local Italian boy named Luca who looked profoundly confused. The young man, Luca, pointed toward the pool. The one with the vibe. He told me the gin is low frequency. He brought his own powder. He call it the protein colada. He say it optimize the guest's gut biome for the ceremony. Clara looked toward the pool. Jax was standing on a sun lounger, holding a glass of the beige sludge toward the sun. Life is a dance of macros and micros. He shouted at his phone. Don't let toxic alcohol ruin your alignment. Drink the light. Use code JAXHEALING for 15% off your first tub of bio sludge. Jax. Clara marched over, her heels clicking angrily on the stone. Where is my gin? Jax jumped down, landing with the grace of a cat. Hey, sister bride. The gin? I had the staff put it in the cellar. It was creating a major blockage in the heart chakra of the event. Trust me, the guests will thank me when they don't have a hangover during the manifestation ceremony. There is no manifestation ceremony. There is a wedding. Mine. Technically, Jax said, leaning in close, his breath smelling of vanilla and wheatgrass. Every moment is a ceremony. Your mom gets it? She's a visionary, Clara. She told me this wedding was just a canvas for something bigger. She's got the vision. You just have the clipboards. Clara's vision blurred with rage. She turned to find her mother standing behind her, sipping a protein colada with a look of feigned enjoyment. Mother, tell him to put the gin back. Now. Evelyn pouted. Oh, Clara. Jax is just trying to help. He's an expert in guest experience. And honestly, the beige matches the stone of the villa so much better than that green gin. It's about the aesthetic. The aesthetic is my decision. Clara shouted. A few guests, who had started to arrive, turned to look. Among them was Liam's mother, a quiet, traditional woman from London who looked like she wanted to evaporate. Evelyn's face changed instantly. The smugness vanished, replaced by a look of profound, calculated heartbreak. Her lip trembled. I see. I see how it is. I try to bring health and harmony to this family, and I am treated like a criminal. I'm just a mother who wants her daughter's day to be perfect. If my presence is such a burden, if my partner's vibrations are so offensive. She turned to the gathered guests, a single, perfect tear tracking through the gold leaf on her cheek. I'm so sorry, everyone. My daughter she's under a lot of pressure. Please, enjoy the sludge. It's very expensive. She turned and ran back toward the villa, with Jax trailing behind her, filming the emotional moment over his shoulder. Claire, Liam said, appearing at her side. He looked exhausted. Maybe just let them have the drinks. It's not worth the scene. It's not just the drinks, Liam, Clara hissed. She's taking over. She's erasing me from my own wedding piece by piece. The final straw came during the late afternoon rehearsal at the altar. The altar was a simple, elegant stone arch overlooking the valley, draped in white silk and climbing roses. As Clara walked down the path to practice her entrance, she stopped dead. The chairs, the 200 white Tiffany chairs she had spent 6 months sourcing, had been rearranged. They were no longer facing the altar. They had been moved into a wide semicircle, facing a spot about 20 feet to the left, where the sun hit a specific rock formation. At that spot stood Evelyn and Jax. Jax was directing 2 of the villa's groundskeepers to move a large, ornate gilded mirror which usually hung in the grand ballroom out onto the grass. Perfect, Jax muttered, looking through his phone's viewfinder. When the sun hits 5:45 p.m., the reflection will hit the mirror, bounce back onto the couple, and create a literal halo effect. It's going to be a viral masterpiece. What are you doing? Clara's voice was low, dangerous. Evelyn turned, beaming. Clara. We found the light. The altar you picked is dead light. It's very flat. Very 2010. But over here? This is where the magic happens. We've moved the ceremony spot. You moved the ceremony spot. Clara felt a strange, cold calm wash over her. It was the calm of someone who had finally realized they were at war. Without asking me? Without the officiant? Without the groom? The officiant is fine with it, Evelyn said breezily. I gave him a little tip. And Liam? Liam's a man. He'll stand wherever we tell him to stand as long as there's a bar nearby. Move the chairs back, Clara said. Clara, don't be a bridezilla, Jax chuckled, not looking up from his phone. We're optimizing your brand. You should be thanking us. Move the chairs back. Clara stepped toward Jax, her eyes locked on his. And get that mirror out of here. This is not a photo shoot for your wellness scam. This is a wedding. Jax finally looked up, his smug smile faltering. He looked to Evelyn for backup. Evelyn stepped forward, her eyes cold. The mask of the grieving mother was gone. Listen to me, Clara. I am paying for the platinum wine package. I am paying for the vintage string quartet. I am paying for the fireworks. That gives me a seat at the creative table. If you want a boring, flat-lit wedding in a corner, you can do it on your own dime. But as long as my name is on the ledger, we do it with style. Your name isn't on the ledger, Mom, Clara said, her voice trembling but clear. I used my inheritance from Grandma. Your name is on the guest list. And if you don't move those chairs, your name will be on the no-entry list at the gate tomorrow morning. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the cicadas seemed to stop buzzing. Evelyn's face turned a shade of purple that matched the Tuscan grapes. She opened her mouth to speak, but Jax caught her arm. Chill, Evie, he whispered, loud enough for Clara to hear. Let her have her flat light moment. We have our own content to worry about. Remember the big reveal. Evelyn took a deep breath, her eyes flicking to the mirror, then back to Clara. A strange, terrifying smile spread across her face. It wasn't the smile of someone who had lost. It was the smile of someone who had just changed the game. Of course, darling, Evelyn said, her voice suddenly sweet as honey. Your wedding. Your way. We'll move the chairs back. Jax, help the men with the furniture. We wouldn't want to upset the bride. She leaned in and kissed Clara's cheek. Her skin felt like ice. I hope you get exactly what you deserve tomorrow, Clara. Every single thing. As Evelyn walked away, Jax lingered for a second. He held up his phone and snapped a photo of Clara standing alone by the altar. Caption: Stress is the ultimate toxin, he muttered, his thumbs flying over the screen. See you at the finish line, Clara. Clara stood in the fading light, watching them retreat. She had won the battle of the chairs, but as she looked at the gilded mirror sitting abandoned on the grass, she saw her own reflection. She looked pale, frantic, and small. She didn't know it yet, but the mirror wasn't for her. And the big reveal Jax had mentioned was a storm that no amount of planning could stop. The morning of the wedding arrived with a cruel, mocking beauty. The sun rose over the Tuscan hills in a blur of apricot and violet, casting a golden glow over the Villa di Sogni that made the ancient stone look like it had been dipped in honey. It was the kind of morning Clara had envisioned for 3 years. In her mind, she was supposed to be sipping lemon-infused water, surrounded by her bridesmaids in matching silk robes, the air filled with the scent of expensive hairspray and joyous anticipation. Instead, Clara woke up to a silence so heavy it felt like a physical weight. Her bridesmaids, 3 friends from college who had spent the previous night being mentored by Jax on the terrace about the toxins of modern careerism, were nowhere to be found. Her phone was dead, the charging cable mysteriously sliced through by what looked like a very sharp pair of fabric scissors. Clara didn't panic yet. She walked to the armoire where her custom Vera Wang gown, a masterpiece of architectural silk and hand-sewn pearls, had been hanging in a protective garment bag. The bag was there. But when Clara unzipped it, her heart stopped. The bag was empty. In its place was a small, handwritten note on heavy, cream-colored stationery. Darling, the silhouette was just a bit too meringue for your frame. I've taken it to the seamstress for a quick elevation. Trust the process. Love, Mom. Clara stared at the empty hanger. The elevation? The seamstress was in Florence, an hour away. The ceremony was in 4 hours. No, Clara whispered, her voice cracking. No, No, no. She threw on a robe and sprinted down the hallway, her bare feet slapping against the cold marble. She bypassed the breakfast room, where she could hear the clink of silverware and the distant, muffled sound of Jax's voice explaining the energetic properties of sourdough. She headed straight for the master suite, the Queen's quarters as Evelyn had taken to calling it. She didn't knock. She slammed the door open. The room was a battlefield of beauty products. White lilies, the ones Clara had explicitly forbidden because of her allergies, were shoved into every available vase, their cloying, funeral scent filling the air. And there, in the center of the room, stood Evelyn. Evelyn wasn't in a robe. She was in a dress. It wasn't Clara's Vera Wang. It was something else, a gown of shimmering, translucent lace that looked like it had been woven from moonlight and ego. It was whiter than white, with a train that stretched 10 feet across the floor and a neckline that was daring even for a Vegas wedding, let alone a Tuscan villa. "Mother," Clara gasped, clutching the door frame. "Where is my dress? Where is the Vera Wang?" Evelyn turned slowly, a champagne flute in one hand. She looked radiant. Terrifyingly radiant. "Oh, Clara. You're awake. You always were such a late sleeper on important days." "It's a sign of a sluggish thyroid," Jax says. "The dress, Mom. Where is it?" "I sent it back, darling." "It was a bit derivative, don't you think? Very department store bridal. I realized that as the hostess of this entire affair, I couldn't have you walking down the aisle in something that looked so budget. Budget. It cost $15,000. And yet, it looked like $5, Evelyn sighed, smoothing the lace over her hips. "Don't worry. I've arranged a replacement for you. It's in the laundry room. A lovely, simple slip dress. Very 90s minimalist. It suits your understated personality." Clara took a step into the room, her hands shaking. "You sent my wedding dress away? On the morning of my wedding? And you're wearing that? You look like the bride, Mother. You're wearing a white gown with a 10-foot train." "It's not white, Clara. It's celestial pearl," Evelyn corrected her with a sharp smile. "And of course I look like the bride. In a way, I am the bride of this event. I am the one who birthed the bride. I am the one who curated the soul of this gathering. And besides..." Evelyn leaned in, her eyes sparkling with a manic intensity. "Jax and I had a realization last night. Why wait? Why let all this beautiful lighting and expensive champagne go to waste on just one union? We've decided to move our timeline up. We're having a twin flame integration ceremony." Clara felt the floor tilt. "A what?" "A wedding, darling. Keep up. We're getting married. Today. At the 5:45 p.m. golden hour slot Jax found. That's my slot? That's when I'm supposed to marry Liam." "Oh, Liam," Evelyn waved a hand dismissively. "Liam is so flexible. He's like a golden retriever. He'll be happy whenever. We pushed your little ceremony to 8 p.m. It'll be lovely under the moonlight. Very intimate. Very after party." Clara felt a scream building in her chest, a raw, primal sound. She turned and ran for the stairs, heading toward the venue office. She needed Beatrice. She needed the adults in the room. She found Beatrice in the ballroom, but the wedding planner didn't look like the woman who had spent months helping Clara pick out linen napkins. She looked like a woman who had seen the face of God and found out he was a high-paying narcissist. "Beatrice. My mother said she moved the ceremony time. Tell me she's lying. Tell me the officiant is still coming at 5. Beatrice wouldn't meet her eyes. She was busy directing 3 men to move the Clara and Liam welcome sign into a dark corner behind a potted palm. "Clara. I'm so sorry," Beatrice stammered. "Your mother, she presented a new contract last night. She paid the host interference fee. It's a clause in the venue's fine print. If the primary financier. I am the financier. I used my inheritance. But the account the wire transfer came from, Beatrice whispered, finally looking up with pity, was a joint trust. Your mother's name is the primary. She froze your access this morning. She's technically the only one the venue is legally obligated to listen to now. Clara felt the air leave her lungs. Her mother had planned this. Every donation to the wedding fund, every gift toward the venue, it had all been a Trojan horse. Evelyn hadn't been helping, she had been buying the deed to Clara's dream. And the officiant? Clara asked, her voice a ghost of itself. Father Giacomo is, well, he was a bit confused, but Jax gave him a donation for the parish and a signed copy of his wellness book. He's performing the twin flame ceremony at 5:45. Your ceremony, he said he might be able to stay for a quick blessing at 8:30, but he has a dinner engagement. Clara backed away, out of the ballroom, out onto the veranda. She saw Jax in the distance. He was standing at the altar, her altar, directing a crew of videographers. He was wearing a white linen suit that matched Evelyn's dress perfectly. He looked like a god, and he knew it. Everything okay, sis? Clara turned to see her brother, Leo, standing by the fountain. He looked uncomfortable in his tuxedo, holding a flask. Leo. You have to help me. Mom has gone insane. She's stolen the wedding. She's stolen my dress. Leo took a long pull from the flask and sighed. Clara, look, you know how she is. When she gets an idea, she's a steamroller. And Jax, he's got her convinced they're the next it couple. He told her if they film the wedding here, they can sell the footage to a streaming service as a pilot for a reality show. She's already signed the release forms. A reality show? Clara whispered. She's turning my wedding into a pilot. She says it'll make you famous by association, Leo said, shrugging. Look, just go with it. Wear the slip dress. Marry Liam at 8 o'clock. It'll be quieter, sure, but at least the drama will be over by then. It's not about the drama, Leo. It's about the fact that she's erased me. This was the one day that was supposed to be mine. Nothing is ever truly yours when Mom is around, Claire, Leo said sadly. You know that? Clara looked at the villa. She saw the guests starting to wander the grounds, her friends, Liam's family, all looking confused by the new order of service cards being handed out by Jax's wellness assistants. The cards featured a large photo of Evelyn and Jax gazing into each other's eyes. Clara's name was mentioned in a small footnote on the back, evening blessing to follow. She felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Liam. He looked pale, his tie undone. Claire, he said, his voice low. I just tried to get into the groom's suite to get my cufflinks. Jax's security team blocked me. They said the suite is being used as a green room for the production crew. They told me to change in the public restroom by the pool. Clara looked at her fiancé. The man who had stayed up late with her for months, color-coding guest lists. The man who just wanted to build a life with her. Liam, she said, her voice trembling. She took the dress. She took the time slot. She took the money. Liam looked at the villa, then back at Clara. He saw the tears prickling her eyes, but he also saw something else. For the first time in her life, the good girl mask Clara always wore was cracking. The daughter who always apologized, the bride who tried to keep the peace, she was disappearing. What do you want to do? Liam asked. We can leave. We can drive to Rome right now. We can leave them with the bill and the cameras and the beige sludge. Clara looked at the altar, where Jax was currently practicing his vows into a microphone, his voice echoing across the valley. I, Jax, accept you, Evelyn, as my co-creator in this 5D reality. A cold, Sharp clarity settled over Clara. She looked at the laundry room door where her replacement slip dress supposedly waited. She looked at the fountain, where Evelyn was currently posing for a candid shot, laughing like a girl half her age. "No," Clara said, her voice suddenly steady. "We aren't leaving. We aren't. No. If she wants this wedding so badly, she can have it. She can have every single bit of it." Clara's eyes narrowed as she watched her mother twirl in the celestial pearl gown. "But she's going to find out that when you hijack a plane, you're the one responsible for the landing. And this landing? It's going to be a disaster. What are you thinking?" Liam asked, a small, nervous smile tugging at his lips. "Beatrice said the contract is in Mom's name now," Clara said, a predatory glint in her eye. "That means the bill is in her name too. Every bottle of champagne, every firework, every host interference fee. It's all hers." Clara grabbed Liam's hand. "Go to the restroom. Change into your suit. Find our 10 best friends, the ones who hate Jax as much as we do. Tell them to meet me behind the olive grove in 20 minutes. We're going to have a wedding, Liam. Just not the one my mother is filming." As Clara walked away, she saw Evelyn waving at her from the balcony, blowing a kiss with a look of supreme triumph. Clara waved back, a sweet, obedient smile plastered on her face. The morning of the meltdown was over. The afternoon of the insurrection was about to begin. The golden hour in Tuscany is a legendary phenomenon. It is the moment when the sun hangs low enough to turn the dust into floating flecks of gold and the olive trees into silver ghosts. It was the exact window of time Clara had spent 18 months researching. She had calculated the angles, the shadows, and the way the light would hit the altar to ensure her wedding photos would look like a Renaissance painting. Now, that light was being harvested for a TikTok live. At 5:40 p.m., the 200 guests were seated in the semicircle Evelyn and Jax had demanded. The atmosphere was thick with a mixture of confusion and second-hand embarrassment. Liam's parents, traditionalists from Surrey, sat in the front row with expressions that suggested they were witnessing a slow-motion train wreck. They held their order of service cards, the ones featuring a filtered photo of Jax shirtless in a yoga pose with the tips of their fingers, as if the paper itself were contagious. Clara stood in the shadows of the stone portico, wearing the replacement slip dress. It was a thin, translucent piece of fabric that felt more like a nightgown than a wedding dress. Beside her, Liam stood in his tuxedo, his jaw set in a hard, grim line. "Ready?" he whispered. "Not yet," Clara said, her eyes fixed on her mother. "I want to see the opening act." Suddenly, the air was punctured by a heavy, pulsing bass. It wasn't the string quartet Clara had hired, it was a high-tempo techno remix of Canon in D, blasted through professional-grade speakers that Jax's production team had rigged up an hour ago. Then came Jax. He didn't walk, he swaggered. He emerged from the villa wearing a white linen suit that was dangerously tight, unbuttoned to show a crystal pendant resting on his sternum. He was holding a gimbal with his phone attached, narrating his entrance to his 400,000 followers. "What's up, tribe? We are live from Italy. The vibrations are peaking. We're about to merge two souls into one high-frequency entity. Drop a heart emoji in the chat if you believe in eternal alignment." He reached the altar, did a ceremonial bow to the gilded mirror, and turned to wait. Then, the music shifted. The techno beat dropped away, replaced by a soaring, operatic version of Ave Maria but with a synth-pop undertone. Evelyn appeared at the top of the stone stairs. She looked magnificent in a way that was almost predatory. The celestial pearl gown caught every stray beam of the Tuscan sun, turning her into a shimmering, iridescent statue. The 10-foot train followed her like the wake of a ship. She didn't have anyone to walk her down the aisle, she didn't need anyone. She moved with the absolute confidence of a woman who had successfully deleted her daughter from the narrative and replaced her with a younger, shinier version of herself. As she reached the altar, she didn't look at the guests. She looked at the cameras. "Darlings," she whispered, her voice amplified by a hidden lapel mic. "Welcome to the beginning of the rest of my life." Clara leaned over to Liam. "Now." While they're distracted by the alignment ceremony, they slipped away from the portico, moving toward the back of the villa. Clara didn't go to the laundry room or the guest house. She went straight to the venue manager's office. Beatrice was there, looking like she wanted to cry. "Clara? What are you doing?" "Your mother is, she's currently exchanging energy rings." "Beatrice, listen to me very carefully," Clara said, her voice cool and sharp. "My mother took over the contract today, correct? She signed the host interference clause." "Yes," Beatrice said tentatively. "She's legally the directing party now." "Excellent. Then I have a few final requests from the directing party. My mother mentioned earlier that she wanted the Imperial upgrade. She wants the $500 bottle vintage crystal served to every single guest for the toast. She also decided she wants the midnight fireworks display tripled in length. And the floral arrangements. She wants the ones from the ballroom moved to the pool area, which will require a rush fee for the staff." Beatrice blinked. Are you sure? That will add nearly $40,000 to the final bill." Clara smiled a small, chilling smile that didn't reach her eyes. She said she wanted it to be iconic. She said the details don't matter as long as the vision is realized. "Sign the work orders, Beatrice. Use her digital signature from the trust account. She gave you authorization this morning, didn't she?" "She did," Beatrice whispered, realizing the trap. "She gave me full discretion to enhance the experience under her name." "Then enhance it," Clara said. "And one more thing. I need the keys to the shuttle van. The big one." 10 minutes later, Clara and Liam stood behind the olive grove, where their 10 closest friends, the inner circle, were waiting. They were a group of architects, doctors, and artists who had watched the afternoon circus with mounting fury. "Guys," Clara said, addressing the group. "The twin flame integration is going to take at least another 45 minutes. There's going to be a gong bath and a 20-minute speech by Jax about the geometry of love. We aren't staying for it." "Where are we going?" one of the bridesmaids, Sarah, asked. She was currently holding her protein colada with an expression of deep disgust. 5 miles from here is a vineyard called El Anima del Bosco, Clara said. "It's small. It's rustic. It has no Wi-Fi, no wellness architects, and the owner is a friend of Liam's. He's already got the wood-fired pizza oven going. He's got cases of red wine that cost €10 a bottle and taste like heaven." "But what about the wedding?" Leo, Clara's brother, asked. He looked torn between his loyalty to Clara and his fear of their mother. "The wedding is happening right there," Clara pointed toward the villa, where a distant gong suddenly sounded, echoing through the valley. "Evelyn is marrying Jax. She's paying for the most expensive party in the history of Tuscany. She's got the cameras, she's got the celestial pearl dress, and she's got the bill. She doesn't need us. We're just extra in her reality show." "And us?" Liam asked, looking at Clara with pure adoration. "We're going to get married," Clara said. "Properly. With pizza and wine and people who actually like us." They moved like a commando unit. They loaded into the shuttle van, ducking low as they drove past the main gates. Through the windows, Clara saw the twin flame ceremony reaching its climax. Evelyn and Jax were standing inside a circle of burning sage, their hands joined, as a drone buzzed overhead to capture the perfect cinematic shot. "Goodbye, Mother," Clara whispered as the van cleared the driveway and accelerated onto the winding mountain road. "Enjoy the iconic night." The vineyard of El Anima del Bosco was everything the Villa di Sogni was not. There were no white linens, no gilded mirrors, and no protein coladas. Instead, there were long, rough-hewn wooden tables under a canopy of twinkling fairy lights. The air smelled of wood smoke, roasted garlic, and fermenting grapes. The owner, a stout, laughing man named Paolo, met them with open arms. "Liam. My friend. You look like you have escaped a prison." "You have no idea, Paolo," Liam laughed, pulling his tie off and tossing it onto a chair. The ceremony was short. They stood under a massive, ancient oak tree. Leo, who had finally decided that pizza was better than being a background actor in a TikTok, stood as the witness. There was no techno remix. There was only the sound of a distant accordion from the farmhouse and the wind in the leaves. "I, Liam, take you, Clara, not because of your vibrations, but because you're the only person I want to talk to for the next 60 years. I, Clara, take you, Liam, and I promise to never, ever buy a wellness book." They kissed as their friends cheered, real, guttural cheers that weren't for the cameras. They ate pizza with their hands, the tomato sauce staining Clara's cheap slip dress, and they drank wine out of mismatched tumblers. Meanwhile, back at the Villa Disogni, the host interference was in full swing. As Clara sat by the fire, laughing with her friends, her phone, which she had managed to charge via the van's USB port, began to explode with notifications. She didn't answer. She just watched the story updates from Jax's Instagram. The Imperial upgrade had arrived. The guests, bored and hungry from the 2-hour ceremony, had descended on the vintage crystal like locusts. Jax was filming himself pouring a $500 bottle over a tower of glasses, shouting about abundance mindset. The fireworks began a massive, deafening display that went on for 30 minutes, lighting up the valley like a war zone. Clara could see the flashes of light from the vineyard, 5 miles away. Each burst of red and gold was another $5,000 added to her mother's bill. Then, the final notification came. It was a text from Beatrice, sent in a moment of professional panic. "Clara, the police are at the gate. They say there's an international warrant for a Jax Miller regarding a cryptocurrency fraud scheme in the UK. Your mother is screaming. The videographers are still filming. What do I do?" Clara looked at the message, then at the glowing red embers of the pizza oven. She looked at Liam, who was currently teaching Sarah how to properly toss a crust. She typed a simple, 3-word reply to Beatrice. "Check the contract." Clara turned her phone off and dropped it into her purse. She stood up, picked up her glass of €10 wine, and toasted the moon. "To the bride," she said softly. "To the bride?" Her friends roared back. The Tuscan sun had long since set, and for the first time in her life, Clara wasn't worried about the light. She was exactly where she was supposed to be, while 5 miles away, the celestial pearl was about to meet the cold, hard reality of a police interrogation and a credit card statement that would take a lifetime to pay off. The morning after a revolution is usually silent, and the Villa Disogni was no exception. As the sun crawled over the ridge, it didn't find the polished perfection of a high society wedding. Instead, it illuminated a battlefield of narcissism and high fructose biosludge. Empty bottles of $500 crystal lay discarded in the hedges like expensive artillery shells. The white silk runners were stained with spilled protein coladas and the gray ash of burnt sage. The celestial pearl altar, once the stage for a twin flame integration, was now just a cluster of folding chairs surrounding a gilded mirror that had been cracked during the commotion of the arrests. In the center of the ballroom sat Evelyn. She was still wearing the gown. The 10-foot train was gray with dust and snagged on a rogue piece of gravel. Her gold leaf eyeliner had smeared during her 3-hour interrogation by the carabinieri, giving her the appearance of a very wealthy, very angry raccoon. Beside her on the mahogany table sat a leather-bound folder. It was the final invoice. Clara walked into the room at 9 a.m. She looked radiant, though not in the way a traditional bride is expected to. She was wearing her €15 slip dress, now wrinkled and smelling faintly of wood smoke and pepperoni. She had a denim jacket thrown over her shoulders and a takeaway coffee from a local village bar in her hand. She looked like a woman who had slept 5 hours of the best sleep of her life. "Morning, Mother," Clara said, her voice bright and terrifyingly calm. Evelyn didn't look up. Her voice was a low, jagged rasp. "He was a Libra, Clara. Libras are supposed to be balanced. They aren't supposed to have 3 different passports and a pending extradition treaty with the United Kingdom." "Well," Clara pulled up a chair, the legs screeching against the marble. "I think the balance he was looking for was in his offshore accounts. I hear the crypto wellness market is very volatile these days." Evelyn finally looked at her daughter. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face a mask of disbelief. "They took him. In front of the cameras, Clara. They didn't even let him finish his closing manifestation speech. The lead producer says the footage is gold. They're changing the title of the show from Twin Flames in Tuscany to The Tuscan Trap, a wedding in handcuffs. That's wonderful news, Mom. You always wanted to be iconic." Clara took a slow, deliberate sip of her coffee. "You're going to be a true crime sensation. People will be talking about this for decades. Just like you wanted." Evelyn's gaze drifted to the leather-bound folder. Her hand trembled as she pushed it toward Clara. "The bill. Beatrice brought it to me an hour ago. She said there were last-minute enhancements authorized by the directing party." Clara opened the folder. The numbers were staggering. Imperial Champagne Upgrade, $42. Grand Finale Pyrotechnics, Triple Duration $15. Host Interference Contractual Penalty, $20. Emergency Floral Relocation Fee, $8.500. Production Liability Surcharge, $12. The total, including the venue rental, the catering, and the wellness assistance accommodation, sat just north of $285. "That's quite a lot of abundance, Mom," Clara said, leaning back. "I can't pay this, Clara," Evelyn whispered, her voice finally breaking. "I used the liquid cash from the trust for the deposit and the wellness investment Jax talked me into. The rest is tied up in the New York apartment. I thought since you were paying for the wedding." "But I didn't pay for a wedding, Mom," Clara interrupted, her voice dropping to a whisper that cut through the room. "You hijacked the contract. You told Beatrice I was pedestrian. You told the venue that you were the one in charge. You signed the host interference clause that legally shifted all financial liability from the original planner me to the directing party. Which is you." Evelyn stared at her. "You did this. You told Beatrice to add those things." "I simply facilitated your vision," Clara said. "You wanted imperial. You wanted iconic. I just made sure you got exactly what you asked for. After all, a mother's dream is a sacred thing, isn't it?" Evelyn stood up, the celestial pearl dress rustling like a dying animal. "You spiteful, little. I gave you everything. I tried to save your wedding from being a bore." "No, Mom," Clara stood up too, her shadow long and sharp on the floor. "You tried to eat my life. You've been eating my life since I was 5 years old. Every birthday, every graduation, every achievement you found a way to make it about your vibrations or your drama. But this time you bit off more than you could chew. You didn't just steal a wedding. You bought a $285 lesson in consequences." Clara reached into her purse and pulled out a small, velvet box. She set it on the table. Inside was the pair of vintage pearl earrings her grandmother had left her, the only part of her inheritance Evelyn hadn't been able to touch. "I'm leaving now. Liam and I have a flight to the Amalfi Coast. No cameras. No influencers. Just us and a very quiet hotel that doesn't serve protein sludge. You're leaving me with this. Evelyn gestured to the empty ballroom, the bills, and the looming threat of a reality TV edit that would make her the villain of the year. I'm leaving you with your husband, Mom, Clara said, heading for the door. Or, well, his legal fees. I'm sure if you use the code VIBE20, his lawyer might give you a discount. The aftermath of the Tuscan trap was a digital wildfire. 6 months later, Clara sat in a small, sunlit kitchen in a cottage far away from the city. She was scrolling through her laptop. The documentary had just dropped on a major streaming platform. It was the #1 trending show in the world. The thumbnail was a shot of Evelyn, gold leaf smeared and screaming at a carabinieri officer, while Jax was being shoved into the back of a van in the background. The title card read, "My mother hijacked my wedding." The internet had done what the internet does. They had turned Evelyn into a Karen meme of tectonic proportions. Jax was currently awaiting trial for a multi-million-dollar biotoken scam, and his tribe had long since abandoned him. Clara's phone buzzed. It was a message from Leah. Mom had to sell the Hamptons house to settle the venue bill and the lawsuits from the guests who got food poisoning from the protein coladas. She's currently living in a wellness commune in Arizona. She says she's resetting her frequency. Also, she's suing the production company for emotional defamation. Clara smiled and deleted the message. Beside her, Liam walked in, carrying a basket of fresh tomatoes from their garden. He leaned over and kissed the top of her head. "Still watching the train wreck?" he asked. "Just making sure it's completely off the tracks," Clara said, closing the laptop. On the kitchen counter sat a framed photo. It wasn't a professional shot. It was blurry, taken on a cell phone by a friend. It showed Clara and Liam, standing under an old oak tree at a rustic vineyard, laughing as they shared a slice of pizza. Clara was wearing a €15 slip dress and a pair of vintage pearl earrings. She had never looked more beautiful. The Tuscan dream had been a nightmare, but the awakening was perfect. Clara had lost a wedding, $15,000 worth of Vera Wang silk, and a mother who never really knew how to be one. In exchange, she had found her voice, her husband, and the ultimate satisfaction of knowing that in the end, the light in Tuscany is only beautiful if you aren't trying to steal it from someone else. "Hey, Liam," Clara called out as he headed toward the stove. "Yeah. Remind me never to buy lemons for the house. I think I've had enough of them for one lifetime." Liam laughed, the sound filling the small, honest space of their home. "Deal. Only limes from now on." Clara looked out the window at her own small garden. There were no gilded mirrors, no drones, and no directing parties. There was just the sun, the soil, and a peace that didn't need a single hashtag.